Welcome to this episode of Tell Us Your Story. We are going on year 3, and Natasha and I thought it'd be a good idea to sit down, really have a conversation about how the podcast has evolved, what we're doing in our careers with Arena Insurance Services, and what we're doing with the podcast. So just to give everybody a little bit of background, it's been a pretty interesting 3 years on the podcast from where we started to where we're at today. We're in the top 50% of all podcasts, which if you know anything about podcasts, there's a lot that start and then fall out. And so making it to 50% is a milestone. And then also, I think we've been in 26 countries and territories, well over 525 cities. And we've had thousands of listeners and followers throughout the different platforms. So pretty incredible ride from my perspective. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, first of all, I can't believe it's been 3 years. Whenever I tell people about the podcast, they kind of look at me like, oh, everyone has a podcast. They're like, how many episodes or how many, guests have you had? And I'm like, yeah, we're pushing over 50, and everyone's eyes kind of, their face changes a little bit. So I can't believe that we're on year 3 again. And I think it's just been an absolute journey for us. The amount of people we've talked to and the businesses that we've got to highlight has been fantastic. So, I'm excited for this one because our story has changed a little bit and where we're at. And I'm excited to dig into that.
It's changed quite a bit. And before we get into that, I do want to say just thank you to all of the friends and the family, the business owners. I don't know that I would say we have fans, but the people that support us, it's been amazing. The notes that we get, the feedback that we get, and just the support. So thank you to all of you that take the time to flip on our little podcast and listen to it. It's very much appreciated, and love the feedback and the recommendations.
Yes.
So continue to send that to us, send our way. So where are we at? Some pretty massive career changes for us over the past 4 or 5 months. And I had been with the brokerage that I was with for this April would have been 20 years. And the last 4 or 5 months really working on different projects and the way that we were going, I made the decision that it was time for me to step away from the organization. And I really didn't have a plan at the time. And I know that during that couple month period, you also made the decision to step away. So probably for 2 very different reasons, but ultimately, as I got closer to exiting the organization, it was about a 3-4 month process, really started to think about what I was going to do with my future. At first, I thought I was just going to, hang out on the beach for a little bit, but it's just not my makeup.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. And we made a decision to open up an insurance agency. It wasn't an overnight decision by any means, and put a little bit of thought into it, massive amount of thought. And Arena Insurance Services was born. So that's my experience. As you look back going through the last 6 months or so, talk about yours. What was it like for you?
Yeah, it's a massive transition that I'm still in, and I know that we'll get to that, but similar, as we've talked about, we work together. I'd been with the company for a long time, and I feel like I have been in a place where I've just been, wondering what my next move is. And sometimes you think that something is going to last forever. You think that it's, going to be where you'll spend the rest of your career. But for me, I came to a point where I wanted to explore other things. So yes, timing was, happened to be similar, but I wasn't really sure exactly what that next move was going to be. And then, yes, as it got closer to the kind of exit date, it's not like I ever forgot, but I know what I love doing, which was working with businesses. And, I have so much experience in the insurance world, and I love to lead and all of that. So it kind of I feel like Arena blossomed. So yeah, it's hard to describe, but I'm sure we'll get into it.
Yeah, I'm sure I know that you heard some of the similar things that I've heard. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit. I've been told I was crazy. I'm at an age like, where are you stepping away from a secure job? And it's hard. It's a very competitive space. What are you thinking? What are you doing? And
Yeah, I've gotten it too.
you know how you take it all in stride. It's a big opportunity, massive challenge, and I think we're going on 6 weeks since, or maybe this is week 5 since we left the organization, and not much before that when we decided to, like, yeah, we have to do something with our careers and let's open this agency. So there's been some massive ups and downs. If anybody starts a business and they tell you everything is rosy and everything is working and they have no self-doubt, they're full of shit. Like, there's just no way around it.
Yeah, and by the way, I actually don't think I've ever heard that from any of the business owners that we talk to. Everyone is very like, this is absolutely a roller coaster, not for the faint of heart. So I haven't heard it, but yes, if anybody tells you that, it's a lie.
Yeah, I will say the highs are incredibly high. Like, some of the accomplishments that happen, some of the milestones that, you put on a plan or you put on your goal, whatever people do. And then when you're able to hit that milestone and you're like, okay, we're going in the right direction. And then it might be silent for a day or two because your day's not full of meetings and it's not full of PowerPoint presentations and all of those different things that come with the corporate life. When you're working on a small business, those priorities change and it's different. So there's definitely some highs and some lows and figuring some things out, but it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and a lot of people are very supportive. So yes, there's people who are cautiously optimistic, like, oh, be careful, or you could always get, everyone, which I've been guilty of this too, is like, oh, well, if it doesn't work out, you could just go back. Like, thank you, but I don't want to hear that. Like, I want this to be the plan A, no plan B, all of that good stuff. But for the most part, a lot of people have been super supportive, which has been great as we go through, like you said, the highs and lows. To have people that support and then to have a business partner is also a plus. So, if I was doing it by myself, I don't know, I might be a little more nervous.
Yeah, and I think it's a great opportunity to also just say thank you to Amy and all of the support, my wife and the family. They've been absolutely supportive as I was like, hey, I'm gonna run this down and things are gonna change for a little bit. And then the friends that have been around me that have been like, yeah, absolutely, incredibly supportive. The network has been absolutely awesome. And I know you're getting the same on your side as well.
Oh yeah. I remember John and I were on the freeway driving somewhere and I was like, hey, gotta run something past you. And you're like, what? I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to leave my job and go start a business or do something, find my next adventure. And he was supportive. My family, my friends have been supportive. So yeah, super, super thankful. I think it's a big part of your confidence and your ability to do that. So thank you to all the people on my side too.
Yeah, so let's dive into some of the transitions in the business and just some of the thoughts that we've had. When I think about what we have accomplished over our time together, we had some pretty large teams. We also had some smaller teams, massive projects. We worked with partners, we worked with employers, we worked with individuals. And there was a leadership component of it that was incredibly important to both of us, and leading people and developing people. And that switch just doesn't get turned off. It doesn't go away. The people that you mentored and supported over the years don't just go away. They're still there. They still may need to lean on you from time to time. But how are you filling that gap of going from a leader to transitioning into your own business? And what are some of the things you're feeling and seeing?
It's such a great question because it's something that it has been a big part of the transition, is going from teams of 100, 200, 300, right? Like you have, a handful of direct reports every day down to kind of doing your own thing, right? 2-man show to get started. And so that's been a little bit different for me. I think it's actually given me, I've already appreciated it, but I haven't, I guess I've been in the spot once before, but as you leave, you also, it's not like you are, super close with every single person. We worked with hundreds of people, all of that. But the people that you have really spent time mentoring and leading and have built those, authentic relationships with, those are the ones that follow. And you still have that relationship. You check in, you want the best for each other. So I think I've appreciated coming out and realizing sometimes you don't know, right? A cheesy but until it's gone. So I think it just was a reminder that what we do is important. And so as I'm, working towards the next step and it's just us, I wouldn't say I'm struggling with it. I mean, you're still a leader in your community. There's a lot of networking that we're doing, giving advice to other business owners. Like, I feel like I can't help it. I just, like, it always, like, comes out. I don't know. I feel like I'm, you want to feel like you're leading outside of just your 9 to 5. So I feel like I still am.
Yeah, I've known, and now I'm starting to see that leadership transcends working at a company or an organization. There's businesses obviously throughout the country and throughout the world where this same scenario plays itself over and over and over. There's leaders within every organization stepping away, and we've had some good opportunities doing some consulting. We're part of some networking organizations, and then part of a board and looking at other opportunities that are coming our way in addition to selling. And leadership just naturally comes into play, whether we're helping focus on the vision of the organization that we're with, or we're helping businesses, or we're mentoring individuals. Leadership always ends up being a part of it. So while it's a different form of leadership, it's still leadership, and it's still very, very rewarding.
You articulated it much better than I can.
So let's talk about Arena Insurance. Where did the name come from?
First of all, it took 200 tries. It was back and forth. It was thinking about something that would represent you, me, us, the business. We wanted a name, it's all the things you think about. What's going to be memorable? What's going to mean something? All of that good stuff. So I think it kind of stemmed, I kind of sparked the idea, but you really came through with it. So we both happened to love the quote by Theodore Roosevelt, The Man in the Arena. And so we went with Arena Insurance Services. And as we think about for the business, we are focused on helping business owners and individuals, but really the idea of business and life being an arena and, having so many things thrown at you and being able to make it through. It was just the whole theme of what we wanted to stand behind. So
yeah, I absolutely love that quote. And it talks about the critic, and it's not the critic that counts. And for me, it's been a theme for me throughout my career in my life. I try not to take what the critics are saying too seriously. And when you're opening a business, whether it's us or any business owner, there's always going to be critics. And to be quite honest with you, they're typically in the cheap seats. Like they're always telling you why you can't get something done, why you shouldn't do something, why it's too challenging or it's impossible, until it is possible. It is that man or that woman that steps into the arena that says, I'm going to make this happen, and I'm going to do something special or something different that proves the entrepreneurial spirit. And so that is where the name came from. I absolutely love it. And for those business owners that are going through whatever part of your transition, not even business owner, it doesn't matter what you are, whether you're a leader or you're an individual contributor, you're a business owner, you have a massive business, there's always going to be critics out there. Embrace them, love them, show them support, and be there for them when they need it. And if you're one of those people that needs to use it as fuel, use it as fuel. But what you don't do is let them live rent-free in your head and tell you that you can't do something, because you absolutely can. And it's why I love working with small business owners in particular, because you get to hear such incredible stories, which we now get to tell on the podcast, and we're focusing more on that. So I love the name and the concept and where it came from, and just having the conversation with business owners.
Yeah. And another part and I have the quote on my wall in my office, but at the end, and I touched on it earlier, is you never want to fail, right? But whether it's victory or defeat, it says, at least you do it while daring greatly. And like, that is, starting a business is a big thing for us, for all the people we've talked to, so that, to me, that part is, you want to do something worthwhile, and that's what we're doing. So
I've heard every rumor possible out there that,
ooh, love a good rumor.
I think something like $40 million in funding to build the next ICRA platform. We bought a call center. We bought somebody's business.
Yeah.
So let's talk about really what we're doing. Let's just focus in on who our target market is, and let's speak to them. But what are we doing? What is the truth? People, if those that are listening, if you I heard some grandiose idea. We're going to put it to rest here. So what are we doing? What's the business look like?
Tuning in just to hear the myths busted. So Arena Insurance Services is here in California, local health insurance agency. We do also support Texas, but a lot of our primary clients are in California. So we are focused on the health insurance needs of small businesses, companies with 2 to 100 employees, and really offering them benefit packages from health, the dental, vision, life, all that good stuff, but payroll, workers' comp, all of really just trying to surround a business owner with the benefits that they need to support themselves and their client or their employees.
And so we started from scratch. How much funding did we get?
From other people, none. We were self-funded and not the health insurance plan I'm talking about.
Yeah. I think it was funny. Just some of the conversations I heard, and congratulations on securing funding. I'm like,
yeah. Or even got some offers. And I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. Like, no. So no outside funding right now.
So we're bootstrapping it. So we are working directly with those groups and individuals. And again, it's what we've done our entire careers. Absolutely love working with small businesses. I love hearing their story, but most importantly, I love problem solving for them. And we get to do it on a daily basis. It's not just your traditional health insurance. There's other products now that we're opening up our own brokerage that we're able to surround it with, whether it's P&C, whether it's workers' comp, life insurance. Now we're able to go out, and whether we're doing it ourselves and getting those licenses or we're partnering with people within the community, it's really good feeling to be able to provide that umbrella of support versus just focusing on one niche health insurance product. So it's, again, we're in the infancy stages, but it's been the customers and the clients that we've been able to work with. I've just found it incredibly fulfilling to be able to support them and help them. And it's been a while since I had to jump on the phone and actually do some of this, and it's incredible. It's like riding a bike. Comes right back to you.
Lots of new things too, I think, as far as setup. To your point, we did not go out and buy an established agency or brokerage. It was, going through all of the licensing and insurance and all the requirements, everything that you wonder, what are those steps? Like, where do you even get started to start a business? We had to do all of that, which is, I won't call it housekeeping, but that's like all the things that we need to do ahead of getting to talk with clients and help them. And so that was a big part of our first 30 days, I'd say, is getting everything up and running. And now we're in a spot where we are, getting more involved in the community. We do have, a handful of clients that we're already working with. So it's just been kind of the setup phase is nice to get some of that out of the way.
Yeah, and being on the other side of it, it's fascinating, maybe is the word I'll use. Like in that first 30 days, 45 days of organizations wanting to get in front of us. They're selling a product, whether it's an ICRA admin, it's a general agency, whatever the case may be. We've invested the time and the relationships to look at all of those and gain a different understanding and an appreciation for some of those pieces of the puzzle that we necessarily didn't have to leverage before. An example would be a quoting engine or an enrollment platform. They're out there in places that I just didn't know they were before. And they're pretty impressive.
Once you start looking outside of your bubble, and it's, not that we didn't, but it just means something different when you know the exact specs or the exact scenario that works for your company, right? So it's just finding a big believer in partners. So obviously finding, the tools and the ways that we can do that. But it's been eye-opening to learn for sure.
Yeah, and it's also been fun. It's one of those things we always talked about because of the way that we've always worked. We fail fast. So we have brought, a few agencies on where we've been looking at opportunities and leads or things like that. And like, nope, not going to work. And it's because of our background. So that's fail fast, pivot and move forward is always been part of our philosophy, and it's working out well for us.
Yeah, so I think it's important to take what you've learned too. So like you said, there are things that we see because we've had experience with it, or at least know enough to be dangerous. So it's probably saved us from a few rabbit holes. Not that we haven't found other rabbit holes to go down or lessons to be learned, but really, you know, giving us some credit for the things that we've done. I feel like in our career, there's been a lot of, it hasn't been just one focus, right? We've really learned to kind of run different parts of a business. And so that's one thing that I have been noticing lately is that, you know, lean on the experience that you already have. And then we have plans to grow Arena, and we're just starting, you know, where we've kind of what our bread and butter is, if you will. But I think that will, you know, change as we grow.
Agreed. I want to jump into the podcast. That's what we do,
Yeah.
right? We talk about the podcast. So it's evolved over time. Let's talk about what we're doing with businesses now. So when you think about the podcast and the businesses that we're bringing on, or the community leaders that we're bringing on as well, what are your thoughts? What are the goals? What are the objectives? What are we doing there?
Yeah, so I think the podcast is actually, you know, the theme or the principles haven't changed. We're talking to business owners, we're talking to leaders. We want to know what their story is, and we want to highlight their business. So I think we've gravitated towards highlighting that a little bit more of their business and what they do. And now, you know, we're finding this segue or this, you know, attachment, I guess, with the new business. So I don't know. I think there's many ways that we're going to kind of merge them together. But for right now, I think the businesses, we'd love to continue to get business owners on and share their stories, but also the business side of things.
Yeah, it's evolved for me, and the three words I keep using in a lot of the posts are celebrate, support, and promote. Mm-hmm. I love to celebrate anybody's story, whether you're a business owner or not. Every single person, anyone who's listening to this, has a story. And if you take the time to sit across from somebody, share a conversation, sometimes over a meal, sometimes over a drink, or maybe it's just on a podcast, you will learn some incredible, inspirational things, not only about that person and their business, but also just life hacks, which I think is so incredibly important for all of us to share. It makes us all better. It speeds up the learning process and the things that we're doing. Then we add in the market expertise of health insurance and the individuals that we plan on having on the podcast to really talk about what they're doing within the industry and how they support the business owners or the individuals. Some of those are just straight around health insurance. Some of them are around level funded. Some of it is around ICRA. Some of it's just overall strategy. It might be around workers' comp or payroll or P&C. But the conversations really allow us to continue to learn and grow, and allows the business owner who wants to listen in say, okay, what are my options? How can I look at this? And quite honestly, do I want to work with this organization?
Yeah.
What is their why? And what is their vision? And the why is the business owner and how we take care of them, how we find them a solution so they can focus on growing their business. We know health insurance, we know the benefit space, and we want them to not have to take the time to be up at night and worry about the decisions that they need to make around benefits. That's on us. And we'll bring them along on the journey.
Yeah. And I think that business owners, as they're looking at, they're sharing their story, but every time we talk to a client or a business owner, that's what they're doing, and understanding where they're coming from, understanding what their goals are, understanding what their team is like, what their business does. All of that I've found so helpful. And a lot of our guests or businesses that we've talked to outside of the podcast, same thing is, we're seeking to understand so that we can provide those solutions. And that's what I think that's where everything stems from. So it gives us kind of a leg up.
So where do you see Arena Insurance in 12, 24, 36 months? What's it look like?
Gosh, the infamous question, because we're 30 days in and, I've been thinking a lot about the first year at least, let's go 12 months. But, year one, I think, is a lot of getting started and getting, the foundation set and setting it well and bringing on, clients that really start to build the type of clientele that we want. Of course, my mind goes wild, 24 to 36 months. I would love to grow and build a team. I can't help it, right? I don't want to just be in it alone, but I would love to see not only different offerings for business owners, or we can, surround them in their journey and support them in more ways than just benefits. I would love to see that. I would love to have a team, have people again that we can develop and grow. And I don't know quite yet, but those are my big ones.
Yeah, I see year one as being the new hard. And I can't remember who I was talking to, but they asked me how it was going. I was like, it's hard, but it's a good hard.
Yeah.
And it's an obsession, without a doubt. Like, I was obsessed in my previous role. I probably gave more than I should have. I worked 10, 12 hours every single day. I treated it like it was my own business. And now that it is my own business, like, time flies. Like, I'll send you a message. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like the day's almost done, and look at everything that we've been working on all of the different pieces. But it's one of my favorite pieces of it's like, I feel accomplished at the end of the day. Obviously, we have to get to the point where we have a book of business and we're able to support ourselves, and we're going down that path. But I'm loving this hard. When I look at a year and maybe 2 years down the road, I too would love to have a team. Goal for me is always to be able to bring in any one of the kids that my children, because they're all 23 to 31. They're all older. If they wanted to be part of this journey and learn this industry and part of it, ideal for me. And then we used to ask this question all the time. It was one of the staple questions. So I'm going to ask you now, because I was about to go into it. So what is your definition of success? What does it look like to you?
Good question. I think I've answered this too, and it's probably different every time I answer it. So the point that I am at right now, success to me would be building a business that I'm proud of, that is fulfilling, that allows me to do work every day, that makes me happy and helps business owners, and to be in a position in life where I'm, the best for my family, my friends, my loved ones. That to me is success, doing things that matter to you and fulfill you, and being of help to others. If I could say that that's what I'm doing, I'd consider that successful. What about you?
I think that, to your point, it changes over time. I think I've answered this question as well, but the last few months has really taught me that I don't know that I can be much more successful than I am today. And that sounds incredibly arrogant. It's definitely not tied to money or monetarily, but to be able to step and open up the business that we've opened up with, and the support from the networks, the friends, the people that I've worked with over the years that have come out to show support. And it's not just words, but it's meaningful actions in the things that they've done. I don't know that you find another level to success. Of course, I would love to have the money and all that good stuff. But that's never been the definition of success for me. So as I grow our business, or we grow our business, our book of business grows. And every customer, every person that we've talked to is now coming into Arena Insurance Services, and they're part of what we call our book of business. But now we have relationships with them, which is different. And my network is growing tremendously, and my relationships are growing faster than they ever have before, because I was very transactional over the years in the way that the model was set up, versus a consultative approach, which we adopted in our business development and the things that we did. But in working with business owners, it's been a game changer. So coming back to your question, because you can see I light up and I get excited. I don't know, like the family, the friends, the network, the support, I am in a really good spot as far as success goes. And now I'll go work on this hard, which is this business, which I'm clearly obsessed with. But
I love it. There's been so many projects that we've done, and to me, this is just means like, oh, it's the biggest one to date, right? Is, find something that you believe in, and build your path, and then follow your path, and figure out, where it's going to take you. So I think like we're in just such a good spot, and we have way more conversations than a 30-minute podcast about it. But I think you're right. Like we're in a really good spot, and I would just love to see that continue.
So what advice would you have for those that are either thinking about opening a business, that have opened a business, is now you're right in the beginning, and the hardest part of it, maybe not the hardest part, but what advice would you give?
Yeah, I'll probably take yours. Take the step. Like, just understand what you have to do. So one, I'm a big believer in a plan, and it's probably going to change, but I do think that laying out a plan would probably be the first thing. So what does it look like? Rough outline, very rough blueprint, just something to say, okay, what do I want to do? Why do I want to do it? And where are we going? But then as you actually get into it, it really is just about taking the step. It's about researching, the license of how to do it. It's hopping on the phone with, whoever you need to get that insurance coverage. It's making the phone call to the client. It's joining the group. Every single day right now, I'm just like, what is the step I could take to build the business or to move forward? And that's what it is. So if you like your workout, right? Like, get up and like do it. Like, you have to do something. So that would be my advice is make a plan and take the step. What about you?
I would say, I paused to say maybe that wasn't the hardest, because I do think the hardest is to make the decision. And I've talked to so many business owners and say, I wish I would have made it sooner. And I hope someday to be able to, that I'm able to say that. But after making the decision, I would say master every single piece of the process. I think we've gone through, we've hired multiple people, or agencies, or builders. And I think we've had to let more people go at this short period of time than we ever have. And I and you have gone and we've mastered, or we're in the process of mastering what we wanted to hire them for. Because nobody is going to care about your business or your dream or your passion the same way that you do. And the attention to detail, it pays off to go and sit in front of YouTube for 3, 4, 5 hours and learn how to do something or learn a new skill that you hadn't had before. So for those that don't know us that well, Natasha's 32, I'm 50, and like, there is no right time to go start a business. Just go do it. If you, to Natasha's point, put together some framework of a plan. But even when you do, it's not going to work out the way that you plan it. Never does.
Yeah.
But you need that direction. So it doesn't matter what age you're at, where you're at in your career. If you have a passion and you need something, or you want to go after something that fulfills you, just go do it. And if you fail, at least you tried. And I think that's incredibly important. I did not want to wake up in 20 years and say I didn't give it a shot. And so here we are.
Yeah. Me too. I was like, well, what better time than now? So I decided that. So on your point on mastering things, I think to me, that's always been a big part of how I've grown, is understanding it. You do want to master it to understand how it works and how it should work. And, as you get into like profitability and stuff, you want all of that. But there will come a time, obviously, I don't want people to think like you have to be there's this whole like, oh, if you're working in the business, you're not working on the business. And so there's a point where you grow. But I think as you're building your foundation and business and all of that, like, you do need to understand, you do need to be a part of it and all of that. And then, grow later. So we're like back into the weeds on some things that, we had teams or other people to do. So it's been a nice refresh, but that's one of the things is, just to get started, you just don't want that to inhibit you from, like, if you get so focused on that, right, you might miss out on growing the other stuff.
Yeah. And I let me add to it. I think, this is incredibly important. Ask for help. Mm-hmm. Like, depending on your network. I had a question. I went to one of my friends on engineering, asked him a question on it, and he sent us in a direction that saved us thousands of dollars, not only thousands of dollars, but time. We were able to get things done in a very quick period of time, and it opened up another door that we hadn't even thought of. And that's just one of many examples of ask your network. Like, people are willing to help and support.
It's hard. Sometimes you're like, oh, I don't want to bother them, or, me, I'm like, oh, I'll send a text. And so I'm like, no, I'm going to jump on the call, and you'd be surprised how many people say, yeah, like, people are willing, like, it's you work yourself up into not asking, and you either waste time, your money, or just miss out on an opportunity. So I think that is fantastic advice. We've both had to do that a lot the last 30 days.
So we've spent about a half hour talking all about us and Arena, and which was the point of the podcast. We wanted to share with everybody what we were doing, why we were doing it, and then over the next 12 months, we're going to be telling the story of business owners, industry leaders, community leaders, and really just diving into all of the pieces of building that business, how it's done, their individual journey. And of course, we're going to touch on the insurance aspect and the piece of that, of how that impacts those particular business owners and what they do. So anything else that you want to leave with any of the listeners?
No, we're just, I love it. We're on a journey. I really feel like together with our listeners, we learn something on every single episode. And now, especially starting our own business is, it was already notes I was taking, but now it just means something completely different. So I'm just excited. And just for listeners, again, thank you for the support. And any, business owners that are listening, or business owners that that you think would, benefit from highlighting their story and sharing it, we are always open to that. So
yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to an incredibly hard but fulfilling year.
Best one yet.